Okay, we'll take up the problem. Um, See, a Francis turbine with an overall efficiency of 75% is required to produce 150 kilowatt of power. It works under a head of 8 meters. The peripheral velocity is 0.26 root 2 GH and the radial velocity of flow at inlet is 0.96 root 2 GH. The wheel runs at 150 revolutions per minute. The hydraulic losses in the turbine are 22% of the available energy. Assume radial discharge. Determine the diameter of the wheel at inlet and width of the wheel at inlet. Then guide blade angle. Then wheel vane angle at inlet. So this is the problem. So it is about the Francis turbine. So you find that in the Francis turbine you have the volute casing. Okay. So through before the guide vanes will have the direction of the absolute velocity of water entering the runner. Okay, so we have to calculate that, and also we have to calculate the width of the impeller, this height. Okay, based on the mass flow rate, then the speed of rotation. So before that, for Francis turbines, is a radial inward flow turbine, and among the conventional turbines like Pelton, Kaplan, or even Darius turbines, this Francis turbine is one of the earliest. Okay, so about the velocity triangles, you have the three types depending on whether beta 1 is less than 90 or greater than 90 or equal to 90. So the first one, see the velocity triangle is indicated, the part of the impeller is drawn, okay, a partial section, and the direction of rotation is indicated here. At inlet, you can see the flow velocity is C1, making an angle alpha 1 with the direction of rotation. Okay, the blade velocity, that is the angle made by W1 at inlet, that makes an angle beta 1 with the direction of rotation. Okay, then you have the radial component or the flow velocity CF1. So in this problem, you are asked to find out this U1, the diameter, then the width, and you have to solve the velocity triangles. And coming back, you have another velocity triangle corresponding to beta 1 equal to 90 degrees. Okay, now you can see how the blade is oriented. So U1 is there, beta 1 is 90, alpha 1 is indicated here, C1, and W1 is equal to CF1. In the exit, usually the flow direction is radial, so that the absolute velocity C2 will be equal to the flow velocity. In all the three, it is indicated like that, because in the design condition, one would like to have minimum C2 value, and that will be possible when C2 is in the radial direction. It will not have any whirl component. Then you have the third velocity triangle with beta 1 more than 90. So U1, C1, W1, alpha 1, beta 1 all are indicated. Then here C2 is equal to CF2, U2 is given, W2 is given. So these are the velocity triangles. Then coming to our problem. The first part is determination of the diameter of the wheel at inlet. Okay, so you are given details like the overall efficiency 0.75. The hydraulic efficiency is indirectly given. You read that the hydraulic losses in the turbine are 22% of the available energy. So that amounts to 1 minus 0.22, which gives you 0.78 as the hydraulic efficiency. Okay. Now, between these two efficiency, at least in the academic numerical problems, overall efficiency is given usually to determine the volume flow rate. Hydraulic efficiency will be given so that you can find out the work component at inlet to solve the velocity triangle. Okay, usually it is like that. Now the net head is 8 meters, speed of rotation is 150 revolutions per minute. Now about turbo machines. Generally, people have an idea that turbo machines are high-speed rotating machines. Okay, that is not true. Okay, so there are hydraulic turbines running at say even 100 rpm or 120 rpm, like that. Then some propellers also run at low speeds. The ship propellers, large ones, many of them run at low speeds. Probably the lowest speed is some of the large wind turbines running at speeds like 20 to 25 rpm, revolutions per minute. Okay, so on one end you have very low speed turbo machines. The other end, people talk about the turbochargers which run at 1 lakh rpm, like that, or even some books quote 2 lakhs, like that. Okay, so very high speed machines are there, very low speed machines are also there. Now coming back to the problem, so the power is 150 kilowatts, and the speed, the tip speed is 0.26 times root 2 GH, which amounts to 3.26 meters per second. The flow velocity CF1 is equal to 0.96, which amounts to 12 meters per second. So first, let us find out the diameter of the wheel at inlet. Okay. So of the four things, the first thing is diameter, then width B1, then beta 1 and alpha 1. These are the four things you are expected to calculate. The diameter at inlet D1 is given by this equation, the tip speed equation, which is U1 equal to pi D1 n by 60. And U1 is 3.26, not meters per second. 1 second is missing. Therefore, D is 3.26 into 60 divided by pi into n, and the value of the diameter is 0.41 meters. Okay. Now the second part, that is to find the width B1 at inlet. So you have the flow rate equation, Q is equal to pi D1 into B1 into VF1. Sorry, we should use the notation CF1. Somehow VF1 has entered here. Volume flow rate, see, velocities, we have been trying to use the notation C. So pi D1 B1 into CF1. Then to find out Q, we use the equation P equal to overall efficiency into rho G Q H. So the net head. So from the power equation, Q can be calculated. Q is equal to P divided by overall efficiency into rho G H. So you get 2.55 meter cube per second. Okay. So high discharge, so many meter cube per second. Now the width B is equal to Q by pi d1 into CF1. So that comes to 2.55 divided by pi into 0.415 into 12. Okay, and you get a width value of 0.163 meters. The next we have to calculate the guide blade angle and also the flow, the blade angle, the rotor blade angle beta 1. Guide blade angle, sorry, this is, it should be alpha 1. Okay, see, guide blade means the angle, see this angle, the angle at the exit of the guide blades. Okay, that will be alpha 1. Okay, so this is alpha 1. So first we have to solve the velocity triangle. So we should sketch a velocity triangle. Now, quite often, initially one may not know whether beta 1 is less than 90 or 90 or greater than 90. Now in this case we get a clue that the velocity u1 is relatively very small. Okay, so velocity u1 is only about 3.26 meters per second, whereas the flow velocity is 12 meters per second. So one can guess the velocity should be of this shape. Okay, anyhow, so once you draw the CF1, then you can think of a triangle like this. Then to construct this, you need the world component of the velocity cu1, which we can get from the hydraulic efficiency equation. So hydraulic efficiency equation is u1 cu1 by gh. It should be actually u1 cu1 minus u2 cu2 by gh. cu2, the world component that takes it, is assumed to be 0. Okay, in the design condition it will be 0. So u1 cu1 by gh. So this gives c1 equal to hydraulic efficiency into g into h by u, and that comes to 18.8 meters per second. So the total cu1 is 18.8, cf1 is about 12 meters. You can complete this triangle. Then in the cu1 you can mark a distance equal to the value of u1, which is about some 3, u1 value is 3.26 meters. Okay, then you can complete the entire velocity triangle. So the basic velocity triangle is c1 equal to u1 plus w1. Okay, the vector equation c1 is equal to u1 plus w1, that is the velocity triangle. Now once the triangle is known, it's fairly simple to calculate the angle alpha 1, because tan alpha 1 is cf1 divided by cu1. So alpha 1 is inverse of that. You get a value of 32.6 degrees. Now the blade angle beta 1. So tan beta 1 is equal to cf1 divided by cu1 minus u1. Okay, or it is cw1, the world component of relative velocity w1. So tan beta 1 is equal to cf1, the flow velocity, divided by the world component of the relative velocity, that is cu1 minus u1. So that is equal to 12 divided by this, which comes to around 0.77, and the relative velocity, angle, that is beta 1, is 37.7. Okay. Okay, one slide is missing. So now you have the general equations for the Francis turbine. So I just missed it. Okay. See, another important thing about the turbines, there is something called governing of turbines. Okay. Whether it is a steam turbine or any turbine, especially turbines that are coupled to electrical generators, they have to be governed for speed. Okay, they should be governed for speed. The reason is the generator has to run at the synchronous speed to produce a particular frequency of the electrical current. In engineering, most of the things will not be just an exact value. So when you say 3000 RPM means it won't run at 3000. So always we have tolerance, something like dimensional tolerance. When you want to make a shaft for say 10 mm, we don't say it is 10 mm. We always give a margin 10, say plus or minus 0.01. Okay, so in manufacturing we study about tolerance, and why we give tolerance, because basically the dimension should serve the purpose. If you want to give very fine tolerance, which is not required for the proper working of the thing, the cost will be very high. Unnecessarily, you will be wasting your money on making something of a quality much more than what is required. Okay, so tolerance is provided here also for the governing of turbines. You have the speed of the machine, the turbine. It will have some plus or minus 1 variation. A tolerance will be fixed on that. So within that tolerance, the governor will control the speed of the turbine. How does it do? It will do by varying the input energy. Okay, if the turbine is slowing down, the governor should see to it that more energy is input, so that the speed will pick up. Similarly, when the speed increases, you cut short on the amount of water entering the turbine. So mostly by controlling some valve. So there must be an automatic control system where the speed of the turbine will be sensed. It will be compared with what is the required speed, and the signal will be sent proportional to the difference to actuate the valves. It will be a continuous process like this, the speed governing. Then why should the speed change, whether to increase or to decrease? The reason for this, so the turbine is running the generator, and the generator is producing electric current, which will be immediately used only directly on the line. It is used. You don't store that for use later. So some persons will be using it. So suddenly, if many persons switch off the electrical devices they have, the need for the electric power reduces. So the turbine will produce less electric power, or the resistance offered by the generator will be less. So when the resistance offered is less, the turbine will try to accelerate the generator. So this will be sensed by the governor, and governor will reduce the flow rate. Okay. Similarly, when suddenly more people are using, or the load on that is more, or sometimes the inlet side, the head on the turbine could reduce. When the head reduces, the speed will come down. Okay, head reduction could be, the dam, the water level, it may be sometimes at 100 meters, sometimes it may fall down to 80 meters. Usually the turboelectric generation will be done only when there is sufficient head for the turbine. Whatever is required, that much head will be should be available, because dams have three primary functions. Say one of them is for hydroelectric power generation. There are two more important functions. One is to provide water for drinking and agriculture for the society, and the third one is flood control during flood seasons. To prevent the downstream flooding, maybe you store water or you regulate it. Okay, so this is about Francis turbine. The next topic will be the Kaplan turbines. See, Kaplan turbine is also a reaction turbine, but before that, see, in the numerical problem, maybe we can calculate a few more things. See, one of them is the specific speed and the shape number. Okay, so once you know the equations for specific speed, the equation is ns is equal to n root p by h power 5 by 4, where the speed should be in revolutions per minute, power should be in kilowatt, and h should be in meters. So you can calculate, and one can check whether it comes in the value something like say 60 to about 200, 250, like that. I think it comes like that. I had checked. The next one is the shape number. So based on dimensional analysis, we got shape number and first, then that only was slightly modified to get the specific speed. So shape number, the power shape number will have the equation n root of p by rho divided by gh power 5 by 4. So that is the equation. You can calculate that. Then the last one is the degree of reaction. See, these reactions, they have a degree of reaction. Now, how do we estimate the degree of reaction? Now, the definition of degree of reaction, is the fraction of the energy transfer in the rotor due to change in pressure across the rotor. Remember, the entire energy transfer, 100%, is in the rotor only. In the stator, there will be energy transformation from pressure to velocity, vice versa. So here, to find out the degree of reaction, we may have to find out the pressure changes, then find out the total thing. Okay. Now, to estimate that, you can use the second equation also. That is, instead of saying the fraction of the energy transfer in the rotor due to change in pressure, you have the other definition, 1 minus the fraction of the energy transfer due to change in kinetic energy. Okay. Now that if the total specific work is GH, okay, then this degree of reaction must be 1 minus change in energy due to change in kinetic energy divided by GH. The energy transfer due to change in kinetic energy will be half of C1 square minus C2 square. So it should be 1 minus C1 square minus C2 square by 2 divided by GH. Okay. So how do you estimate C2? Anybody? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Now, how do you estimate C2? See, what I said is the degree of reaction can be estimated based on the equation 1 minus C1 square minus C2 square by 2 divided by GH. See, GH is almost delta UCU, the specific work, the Euler work. Okay, so 1 minus C1 square minus C2 square by 2 divided by the GH. Now C1 is given. How do you estimate C2?
So if there is no wall, then C2 is same as CF2.
C2 must C2.
Should be same as CF2.
See, one thing, we do not know the geometry at inlet. We have one thing, CF1 is there, but CF1 appears to be a high value. Whether such a high CF1 can be equated to CF2 equated to C2, or maybe one can assume maybe half of this. So exit velocity is about 5 or 6 meters per second. Then you can estimate the degree of reaction. Okay. Anyhow, these are all academic exercises. So one should know that there is something called degree of reaction, and more than hydraulic machines, hydraulic turbines, and centrifugal pumps, the degree of reaction is very much used in the analysis of thermal turbo machines. Okay, you will have I think one more lecture on Kaplan turbine, the axial flow turbine, maybe a problem there. Then we will pass on to thermal turbo machines. Okay, that means steam and gas turbines, then centrifugal compressors, axial flow compressors, and in that analysis, for anything and everything, we'll be using the TS diagram. Okay, it's all these machines are work transfer machines, so isentropic process will be used ideally, but always we end up with an adiabatic process where the entropy will increase in the direction of flow. Okay, so that is one thing. Now coming back to Kaplan turbine, see, the basic arrangement is similar to this Francis turbine. So you will have a volute casing, you will have some guide vanes, but the runner will be kept little lower, and it will be in the axial portion. You may have blades some 3, 4, or 5, and in the Kaplan turbines, the blades, the runner blades, can be turned about an axis, so that the orientation can be slightly changed to take care of the changing loads. Okay, so the blades will not be welded to the hub, but they will be mounted on some sort of spindle or a spigot, where they can turn about an axis perpendicular to the shaft axis. And if there are 4 blades, all the 4 blades will simultaneously turn. So think of the machine design involved. Invariably you will have a hollow shaft, inside some levers will be there, or sometimes some hydraulic piston arrangement could be there, so that depending on the condition, all the flow blades, 3 or 4 blades, will simultaneously turn. So this is to increase the efficiency. Such turbines, axial flow turbines, where the blades are fixed, they are called propeller turbines. So they must be cheaper, and so long as the load and other things do not fluctuate much, propeller turbine, the cheaper propeller turbine, should be good enough. Okay, and as you see here, in all reaction turbines, you will have a draft tube. We had already seen the analysis of draft tube, the what does it do when you add a draft tube at the exit of the turbine, how it influences the performance of the turbine. All these things we have seen. Okay. Any doubt in today's class? Okay, I think then we'll close the lecture today. Tomorrow we'll meet.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.